now enter into a critical phase of the communication process. I'm going to be giving you a standalone message. In other words, if nothing we have talked about, no other segment, then this segment you watch, this is the critical one. This is the critical piece in which everything tends to come together, and that is organization. How do you organize a message so that you can prepare it well and present it well? In other words, how can you be clear in your presentation? That's what we're going to be talking about, how to put a message together in preparation. It's the most important part of the process because what you want to be is clear, and the way you are clear is be simple, to be short, and to be strong. I call them the triple S. Most messages have two problems. Problem number one, they have too many points. And problem number two, they have too many unrelated points. And the fact is, most messages that I hear have two or three messages inside a single message. And what you want to do is shoot a rifle. What you don't want to do is spray your audience with shotgun pellets. You do not want to have an audience go away and say it was simply unclear. Great speakers can be wrong. Many times they offer their opinions and the audience might disagree. That's okay. What they cannot be as a speaker who is good is you can't be confusing. And so what we're after today, and this is critical, if you remember nothing else, remember this piece, you must be clear. So there are two main parts of a message, and let's dive in. You have the theme, or what I will call from now on, the big idea. The big idea is what you want your audience to remember. It's a short, declarative statement of the truth. I'm going to give you some salient points about what a big idea encompasses. Number one, you want the audience to remember it, so you're going to repeat it often. Next, it's not a title. Within your message, it is a declarative statement. There's a main subject, a main verb, a main object. It's a complete sentence, and that sentence, again, is repeated often. You want it easily remembered, and this big idea, the shorter, the better. I would say less than 10 words, if at all possible. Why? Because I've discovered, and so have you, if you'll ever evaluate any message you give, that people remember very, very little. And so what you want to be is truly on point. The big idea is the anchor of the message. It's what, when all is said and done, the tumult and fury has subsided, and everything is settled down, you want them to remember this one statement called the big idea. The big idea introduces, keyword, introduces the message. So it's part of the introduction. The second part of any great message is what I would call a mini message. A mini message consists of the main points of your message. What does that mean? It supports your big idea. So you have one declarative statement that you want people to remember, and that is the introduction of your message. The body of your message would be the many messages or the main points that prove or support your big idea. The conclusion of a message summarizes those main points and then motivates the audience to action. Let me give you some ideas of what a big idea or theme would be. Life begins at conception. All of your many messages or your main points would then prove that big idea. Your big idea is your conviction. It's what you want to persuade people to believe. Therefore, it has to have support. And that is the body of the message that gives the support. You can't have more than 3 to 5 many messages or main points that will attempt to prove or support your big idea. But they comprise the body of the message. Every mini message consists of 3 elements. A mini message or a main point, you attempt to explain what you mean by that principle or the main point. You simply explain it in your own terms. Again, clarity is the issue. Secondly, you help clarify it by illustrating it. Here's where you use a story or a narrative where it comes alive. The explanation might be statistics or quotes or references or history. It's an appeal to the mind, how people think. Whereas the illustration part of your mini message could be stories, illustrations, best of all, personal examples, something that happened to you recently, and a particular occasion in which they relate to you as a person. That's the best of all kind of story. But those stories appeal to the heart, whereas the explanation obviously appeals to how people think or to the mind. And then there's a third part: explanation, illustration, and then application. Application is basically answering the question, so what? What do I do with what you've said? This is the feat, if you will, of your mini message. This is the action part. This motivates you to do something about the message. Could you take the action step, or do you want the audience to take the action step? Yes, it could be one or the other. It doesn't really matter. But that is a mini message. I call it EIA: explain, illustrate, and apply. What does it explain? One main point about why you believe the big idea is absolutely true. The best way to illustrate this is by a picture of a train. And I want to show you a graphic and take you right through the train. You could start in several ways. You could start by introducing the big idea, which would conclude your introduction. This is what you want the audience to remember again. You could start your message, open it up by a little known fact, a startling statistic, a personal story, which I think is the best. But your opener leads to then stating the big idea. And when you state the big idea or your theme, you will repeat it. This is the point of the message. This is my main thing. This is what I want you to take away from this message. And then you repeat it again. This leads you to what I would call on the train, the boxcars. So the introduction is your locomotive. It will pull the audience. Why the locomotive? Because you're grabbing their ears. You want them to listen to you, and your opening, you have to hit it. You have to light the match on the first strike, because people are bombarded by so many messages. They want to know whether they are eager to listen or not. I call it, in the introduction, the locomotive, introducing the big idea with 3 letters, AID. The introduction aids you into stimulating the audience to listen. I want to know more. They lean forward. They want to get it. A stands for attention. Get their attention. I stands for interest in the topic. And then D stands for a desire to learn more. Give me more. Give me more. That's what the locomotive does as it moves down the track. Now you're going to prove that with the body of the message. And again, that's the mini message. So, what we're talking about is 3 main points to 5 main points where you're proving the big idea to move toward the conclusion of your message, which I would call the caboose. So you have the locomotive, introducing the big idea, grabbing their ears. That's the introduction. The body consists of many messages, 3 boxcars to 5 boxcars, and I'd suggest you have at least 1 boxcar, 1 main point to support that. If you have more than 5 boxcars or many messages, it should be part 1 and then part 2. Don't go over 5. It's just too much in too little time, and people will bat out on you. And so the caboose, what is the caboose? The caboose basically summarizes in 1 sentence each of your main points. Again, people remember very little. So you're going to review the main points. And then that leads to a general application to the audience. Now again, in every mini message, you've applied it very quickly to yourself or to your audience. Explanation, illustration, application. In the end, you will have a general application that normally consists of one of three things: stop what you're doing, continue what you're doing, or start doing what I'm suggesting. And so we have at the end of that message what I would call, following a review of the main points, general summary, I call it a knockout punch or a haymaker. I call it a central illustration. We're going to talk about that in the next session. How do you illustrate? How do you tell a story? How do you tell something that's a narrative that sticks to the heart of people? We're going to talk about that. But right now, just for illustrative purposes, this haymaker does a couple of things. It gives people the motivation to take action. It's probably the most emotional story that you will tell. It's the most poignant story that you will tell. Most of the time, this is a very personal illustration. So that's the blueprint. Remember the train. That's how you organize a message. And it's sort of like a checklist that pilots use. Once you begin to understand that this train will be driving the message home to make it clear, accurate, and relevant, you won't need to refer so much to the checklist anymore. It will come more natural to you. But right away, begin to experiment with intro, body, and conclusion using this graphic of the train. Remember, to the point wins every single time. Cut out the word wax. I call it words on target. In other words, we've said it before, I'll say it again. Say what you mean and mean what you say. The old adage, you've probably heard this before, has a kernel of truth in it. Stand up, speak up, and shut up. It does have merit. So hopefully this session on organization will give you tremendous motivation in preparation that always precedes presentation.